Welcome to another episode of the Adultish Podcast. You can like, listen, comment, share, and subscribe to Adultish on most streaming platforms. You can also find Adultish on Twitter at AdultishP0DCAST. Welcome, everyone, to a brand spanking new episode of the Adultish Podcast. As always, it's your host, Afiya, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Mr. Vincent Bernard. Say hello to the world, Vincent.
Hello, beautiful people. How art thou?
We are tired.
Word.
Both Vincent and I had some days this week.
Yes, child.
at these day jobs, at these 9-to-5s.
Girl, I can't even take it.
Tiring. Where if you guys could see us, which we might do someday soon, we might do that. Like one of our episodes, you might stream it live through Instagram or something, or stream part of it live through Instagram.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You'll see one, my messy ass dining table, and then two, the glasses of alcohol that we have.
Right, exactly.
Right now, I have like my next two. This is like my category 3.5 glass. Like I have a category 5 glass that's like bigger.
Right.
Like DEFCON 5 glass. But This is like my category 3 horror game glass.
Right. That's for a bad day, but it could have been a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah. Like there was some destruction to your psyche, but for the most part, you're here and still whole.
And my DEFCON 5 glass is for when I'm like, fuck this shit.
Exactly. You ready to like the world don't ask me for beep. That means fuck the world, don't ask me for shit. For you guys that don't know the Biggie and Method Man song from Ready to Die. Shout out to Biggie, Brooklyn.
Shout out BK all the way, all day, every day.
Yes, God.
So, this episode of the Adultish Podcast is the part 2 to our Taking a Joke, parentheses, from Dave Chappelle.
Oh, yes.
Like an adult-ish.
Yes.
So, in the first conversation, we basically spoke to our feelings about jokes, about joking, about comedians, about comedic timing, about using a lot of the social issues going on and those things being imparted in jokes.
And about Chappelle himself.
And about Dave Chappelle himself,
reputation.
Because a lot of our conversation was around the fact that Dave was getting a lot of negative feedback and some backlash and some criticism with his latest stand-up Sticks and Stones on Netflix.
Yes.
And we hadn't seen it.
Right.
So, but we had gotten in our feelings about it.
We owned it. Yeah,
and
we owned it.
We owned that we hadn't seen it. And we were just talking on our ass out of something that we hadn't seen.
Right.
But we did promise that we would see it.
Right. And we did.
Come back and give you our feels.
Yes. I'm like, so
take it away.
All right, we can both. All right, so we unanimously enjoyed the special.
Absolutely.
You know, like we'll just start off with that, and what I particularly enjoyed about it was that he unflinchingly talked about what's happening right now.
Yes,
and I will admit there were cringe-worthy jokes that still made me laugh, but I had to admit that they were cringe-worthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, continue.
And I was gonna say, I just want to say, like, I cringed at some of them, but I had to also admit that I was cringing because of the fact that we are a little bit more PC now, whereas maybe in the 90s I wouldn't have cringed as much.
Yes.
But like, I like the fact that even when I was like, oh, Dave, I still was laughing. Like, Like the Macaulay Culkin Michael Jackson jokes.
Okay, yes.
That was a cringeworthy
So what
one.
you call cringeworthy, what I was going to say is that what you call cringeworthy, I call wince jokes. Like
Wince,
jokes
okay,
when I go,
that's good.
Did
Wince
he
is
say
better.
that?
No, that's
Really?
better. That's better.
But I'm
Strike
still laugh because that
cringeworthy.
shit
Right?
was still kind of funny. Like,
Yes.
my first wince joke
Yes.
was when he won the Macaulay Culkin thing about like clearly with him talking about like if he got a blowjob by Michael Jackson, like that's the highest honor type of shit.
Right.
And then the other joke were surrounded the R. Kelly jokes, and when he said that how R. Kelly was like talking about the girl's age like several times.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was like how he should have lied and said, he should have said like it's a 36-year-old.
Right.
Like a 36-year-old feels so good.
Right. And what he
then
said
he
after
followed
that.
it up with, well, they would have been lying because no 36-year-old pussy feels good. And I was like, no, he didn't.
Exactly.
How
I
dare
know.
you?
And there was one woman in the front who was not laughing. She wasn't
Yes.
cracking a smile. She was dead faced.
She was deadpan.
Yes,
I remember seeing that
total
woman.
deadpan.
Absolutely.
But what I liked here's what I appreciated. First off, like we said in the last episode, these are jokes. You have to know how to take a joke. And what I like is that he'd say something really, really hard, and then he'd laugh and kind of do this like run, because it's a joke.
Yes. And the thing is, that's what I like about Dave Chappelle and that whole special is because it's not like he's sitting there deadpan and is saying this like, I believe the shit that's coming out my mouth.
Right.
He literally will say something, and that Dave was not with the shits with what he was saying when he would like dip his head, drop the mic, and like walk away and come back because he's like, even I acknowledge that shit was ridiculous.
Exactly.
That I just said.
Exactly.
So I appreciate him for that. Number one, and number two, to bring it back, which is like what we said in the first part. For those who did feel like, I guess, I'm pretty sure that the Michael Jackson accusers came out and said that they were not.
They were hurt.
They were hurt about it. But the mere fact of that is Michael Jackson jokes will not cease to exist. And I mean, we said this in the first episode, and I'm going to say it again. Michael Jackson jokes will not cease to exist.
Right.
And what my comedic friend, or my friend who loves comedy, Mr. Rob Lomatic, also noted to me once we had a conversation after I watched the show. One, he was complaining about the fact that jokes were being critiqued. He's like, jokes are not supposed to be like critiqued and taken apart, and you're not supposed to have like a critical lens with jokes. Like that's not what you're supposed to do with them. Two, he also mentioned, which was very true, he was like, people are upset at jokes that he's been saying since 2004. So why are we saying he's dated? Clearly, the jokes are from the 80s or from the 90s. Duh. Like, that's the whole point. The whole point of these are recycled jokes. And to bring it back, or to even just like build upon or to cement or solidify that, again, he was making jokes about R. Kelly because R. Kelly's back in the news, but he was making jokes about R. Kelly when he was doing the Chappelle show as well. Yeah. And even when he was doing stand-up previous to the show, he was making jokes about R. Kelly. So again, if not anything, he's being consistent. And the only thing, as I was thinking about it after I watched the show, and I was thinking about it, like, oh yeah, like we've heard these Michael Jackson, like boy pedophile jokes. Like we've heard the R. Kelly jokes. The only thing that has changed is not the comedian, but the audience. And that's really what I took from that special.
Oh my God. You said something
that changed was the audience. Because if he was making the same joke 15 years ago that he's making today, and I can laugh because I laughed at that shit 15 years ago, again, it's the audience. Now we have a new crop of people who they may feel a little bit more sensitive towards the joke. They may personalize the jokes a little bit more. They may take it into themselves a little bit more. And it's like they are not seeing the joke as we saw it years ago. And that's why people are like, oh, he's so dated. He's so old. He's consistent. I'm not going to say he's dated. He's consistent. He's saying the same shit he said before. And I can appreciate a person who's stuck by their guns and saying the same shit. And
to piggyback what you're saying, like, the thing is, we have to remember that the jokes are quote unquote, I don't see them as being dated. I see them as more being subversive and transgressive, because he, like, with the Macaulay Culkin Michael Jackson bit, it's like Macaulay Culkin was a cute white blonde kid.
Very famous, cute
very
white blonde
famous
kid back in the day.
Right. And if anyone is going to be, violated in that way, it would be a child like him. So David's saying if Michael ain't do it to him, then he ain't do it. And that's part of the joke.
That.
Yes.
And I got that.
That's
because
part of the
at the
joke.
same time, and again, as you said, it's to be very subversive because think about the Coreys.
Yes, the Coreys and what they went through.
And what they went through and who would, again.
Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, y'all, for
guys
those
who
who don't know. Because remember, some folks don't be knowing.
I know. And we are of the older millennials on the older spectrum.
Yes.
But look at that again. And it speaks to what Chappelle said, right? Like famous people will attack famous people.
Right.
And if the Coreys were these very famous boys and they were not, they were not sheltered from the harsh reality of, being child stars.
Right.
And that,
and casting couches for boys.
Casting couches for boys. And you know what I mean? All of that trauma.
Right.
His point is they went through that shit and they were rich ass, super young, very famous, very public white men, white boys. If Michael didn't touch Macaulay, how realistic are we gonna think that he was touching these other little kids,
right? Whose parents had ulterior motives anyway.
From day one, with one of them being a person who was a staunch Michael supporter, and then after his death turned around and said, "Oh no, I lied because I loved him so much."
Exactly, and then too, Dave started that whole bit with saying like he's been dead for 10 years.
10 years, why and he got now? 2 new cases.
And 2 new cases, word. Like just the ridiculousness of it. And then I won't dwell too deeply on this one because we're going to talk about this later.
Yes.
But I'll just say when he talked about the Me Too movement. Now this is where I disagree with him on some things. Like I understand what he was saying about Me Too. And when he told the bit about Louis C.K. and about how a man in power who's trying to intimidate or attack you or sexually, what did you say, sexually abuse you, he wouldn't jerk off on himself. He would probably do it on the table. It'd be more of a forceful thing. But Louis C.K. doing it on his stomach and watching it it's part of how he sees himself. That was him. I laughed at that.
I laughed only because of the imagery that he painted of this fat, greasy, white comedian with jizz just dripping on the side of his stomach. And that's a funny imagery.
It's a funny image. Exactly. And he mentioned, you can just being able to leave or whatever. So there was that whole thing, and I was fine with that. But I don't agree with him saying that the Me Too movement is what's causing these anti-abortion laws.
Right.
And that was a false equivalency, and I'm like, bruh. I mean, and that's just me hearing that, and I'm like, okay, you lost me there, but you got me on the rest of it. But it was significant enough for me to zero in on that because I know, women's rights are important. And the thing that I was talking to Alex about is as men, we sometimes have to realize that the privilege we have as males in this world, we'll never know what it's like to walk through the streets as a woman and have to walk with the sort of preconditioned mindset for certain things that women have to have, like walking down certain streets or just being in an empty train car by themselves and some guy come on. So when I was watching that scene, I'm like, okay, he's talking from the point of view of a man.
Yes.
And it's very male, his point of view. It's very male. And so I'm like, all right, bro, you lost me there, but everything else.
Yeah. I didn't care too much for that. However, I also didn't think of him saying that was when he said it, what I thought, how I took it was him saying, I predicted that when this Me Too stuff was going to come out, that it was going to get worse for women.
Right.
And I took that in the sense of him saying, you guys are putting all this attention on your trauma and the things that are happening and all this abuse, all this abuse of power on you.
Right.
Men are going to try to snuff that out by doing something even worse, which is enforcing these abortion laws. But as you said, to kind of correlate the two, oh, well, you see, because you guys cried wolf. Now, look at this shit that happened to y'all. It was kind of all right, Dave. I kind of see where you were trying to go with that, but maybe you should have phrased it a little differently.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I did agree with him in the vein of what he was talking about the abortion laws, where he was like, I'm not for abortion and I'm not against it. And one thing that I also noted that was very interesting was the divisiveness in the audience when he would say shit like that.
Yes.
Because he was like, I'm not for abortion. And you heard a lot of like male, woo,
right.
Because he was in Atlanta. And then he also said, I'm not against it. And then you heard women cheering in the audience. And